Okay, today wasn't such a good day for our friends, the lab assistants. Obviously, a lot of things went wrong, but there were actually a few things that went right as well. Let's take a quick look at both the good and the bad as it relates to the attitude they displayed. Now, I'm sure most of you realize that you really shouldn't bring your kids to work. In the event of a childcare emergency, such as your babysitter canceling on you at the last minute, you are required to call your supervisor and inform them of your situation. In rare cases, your supervisor may allow you to bring your child, but most of the time he or she will probably just ask you to stay at home and make up your hours at a later time. It doesn't look like the young mother called her supervisor beforehand, but at least she made arrangements to take care of her daughter shortly thereafter. Whoops, here's another no-no. Lab assistants are not permitted to use their personal cell phones at work. They're too distracting to yourself and others. If you need to make an emergency call, just use the phone at your station. Oh boy, where do I even start with this guy? Okay, first of all, if you've got so much studying to do that you can't work, then don't work. Lab assistants are referred to as work studies because they're expected to work first and study second. Most of the time, you'll be sufficiently occupied with your regular shift duties that study time will be minimal anyway. Apparently, this gentleman expects his fellow lab assistants to take care of his responsibilities so he can get paid to do homework. Not good. Did you notice the lab assistants' reactions to the professor's request? They both kind of looked at each other like, okay, so are you going to take care of this? If an instructor asks you for help, don't just brush them off, even if you are busy. In fact, you should prepare for this sort of thing beforehand by familiarizing yourself with nearby classrooms and keeping current with their respective class schedules. Introduce yourself to instructors in your area whenever possible so that you will be aware of their needs and they will be familiar with your experience level. That way, you'll get a head start on being able to help them whenever necessary. One of these two should have got up to help this gentleman right away, even if they weren't sure how they could be of help. Okay, listen very carefully to how this young lady answers the phone.
Sanborn College Humanities Campus, this is Amy. How may I help you?
This is exactly how you want to answer the phone. First, state your place of business, San Juan College in this case, of course. Second, the name and/or number of your lab. And finally, your name. Be sure to courteously ask the caller how you may be of service. Go for it, dude! Seriously, how many of you think it's okay to just download whatever you want? Bandwidth is a precious commodity here at San Juan College. The biggest causes of network congestion are things like online games, streaming music and video, and large file downloads. If a student is going to download anything, it needs to be class-related. And by the way, yes, we do check that stuff. What about when we have kids under 18 who want to use the computer labs? This is something that needs to be handled on a case-by-case basis. For example, if a single parent has studying to do and is looking for a way to keep their child occupied, the lab PCs are definitely not the way to go. But if a teacher from one of the local grade schools or high schools would like to utilize one of the labs for teaching purposes, something can usually be arranged. In this case, the lab assistants did the right thing. When in doubt, always check with the supervisor. Remember that as a lab assistant, you really don't have the authority to make a judgment call regarding lab policy. Could this guy have been any less enthusiastic about helping this poor girl? I doubt it. He didn't even attempt to conceal his annoyance that someone would have the gall to ask him to, actually do something job-related. Okay, I better move on. His attitude is even starting to affect mine.
The lady number 22 told me that a young man who helped her find her H drive was very rude to her. I guess he told her even his mom could figure that out.
Yikes. What was it I was just saying about bad attitudes again? If you want to win over your customers, don't insult them. That's pretty much rule number one of customer service. Sometimes you have to help students who are pretty much starting at square one when it comes to computers. This may require a lot of patience from those of you who are old pros, but remember that you need to treat all students, regardless of their learning pace, with the utmost professionalism and respect. Never address anyone in a belittling or condescending manner. And now he's eating at the desk. Hey, being a goofball is hard work. I don't mean to pick on this guy, but let's face it, he's not exactly Employee of the Month material. But this is not entirely a bad thing, as it paints us a vivid picture of what not to do, especially when it comes to attitude. Now, some of you may have medical conditions that require you to eat throughout the day, and in this case, small snacks that are not prone to making a mess are acceptable. But you should never leave your station unattended to get something to eat, especially not without permission, and you should definitely not be eating any big meals at your desk. I'm going to go out on a limb here and guess that our friend here probably doesn't have this sort of medical condition, unless cluelessness can be considered a medical condition. Trick question time. What was the one thing that all three of them did wrong? Look closely. It has to do with their appearance. Give up? None of them are wearing name tags. If you saw them away from their desk, would you be able to tell any of them apart from a regular student? Probably not. Okay, that about does it for our wrap-up. Let's move on to the next chapter.